So this is one of the properties that I purchased my tenants have abandoned. It's in a good location. It's next to a school and a few other properties I own. So let's have a look. Wow, there's a really bad stench coming from somewhere. So it looks like the previous tenant has left a seat, a little sofa, a cabinet, 4 mattresses, heavily stained. There was only supposed to be 2 people living here, so I'm not sure actually how many ended up staying here. There's no electricity. This is a property that I purchased in 2012 for £85,000. At the time, I was working at Standard Bank. Back then, I used to invest as a traditional investor, so I literally used to save up until I had enough money for a deposit and I would buy a property on a buy-to-let mortgage. In relation to this property, I put down 25% as a deposit, so £21,250. The kitchen and bathrooms weren't too bad, but the house needed decorating throughout. So I painted the property with a friend and had a local letting agent find me a tenant. At the time, I had opted for the tenant find service only because I thought I could save myself the 10% management fee and I could do a better job of it myself. How wrong was I? The local letting agent found me a tenant and he moved in and he was paying me £575 per calendar month. This tenant really looked after the house and made it his home. In 2016, he found a house to buy and so he moved out, but he did have someone that was looking for a property and therefore he recommended my current tenant. Since 2016 to November 2022, I had no issues with this property. That's 6 years. The tenant paid the rent on time and also took care of any minor maintenance. Since 2016 to 2022, I think I raised the rent by about £5 to £580 per calendar month. I was working full time and to be honest, because the tenant was looking after the property, I didn't want to rock the boat. I found it difficult to have the rental increase conversation directly. It just felt very awkward. So in November, my tenant didn't pay the rent and I tried to contact him on WhatsApp, but he didn't respond. So after a week of him not responding, I contacted my previous tenant who had recommended him and he said he would go and have a look. So when he went to check on the property was fine and the tenant's brother was there and he said that his brother had gone to Poland and that he would return on the 16th of December, at which point he would pay the rent then. As time went on and I still hadn't received payment, the previous tenant told me that the current tenant's brother had told him that his brother was in critical condition in Poland. His brother was living there rent-free and I did ask if he could pay the rent. Although his brother was working, he never paid the rent and my previous tenant helped me to get him out. I'm actually so grateful to my previous tenant. He helped me a lot. I live 2 hours away from this property and so my previous tenant helped to get the property empty. My current tenant's brother could have refused to leave and could have claimed squatters' rights. You hear so many stories of people entering empty properties and refusing to leave, and it's not that straightforward to get them out. They have rights too, so you have to go through the due process to get them removed lawfully, usually through the courts with a court order and bailiffs. Let me show you the upstairs of the property. This was not normal wear and tear. This one here is broken, so I have to get that repaired. So originally when I gave this house to them, it was all painted magnolia, and it seems that over time they've decided to paint it different colours. Let's have a look at the next room. They've gone to town on this one. It seems like they painted it green and then changed their mind, started painting it white, and then it seems at some point they kind of run out of paint. And this door, they put this, it's almost like ceiling tiles on the door. It actually looks it looks horrible. And the final bedroom. So it seems like they painted it red, and this time around they managed to get the entire room done. Got a time mosaic on the wall, and it seems afterward, after painting it, they kind of threw, I don't know if you can see that, but glitter all over the walls as well. Yeah, it's really disappointing to see it in this kind of condition, especially when it wasn't given in this kind of condition. It was a really nice property. It's kind of fallen into this state. But that's the reality of investing in property. Admittedly, I was likely too easy as a landlord. The tenant paid the rent on time and did so for 6 years, and they took care of any minor maintenance and repairs. I would have done anything I could to help out. I even paid for materials when he wanted to fix the fencing at the back of the property when it got damaged, and even painted the bathroom ceiling and cleaned it up when mold started to build up. I never really increased the rent, even though now my letting agent is telling me that the new market rent is likely to be in the region of £800 to £825 per calendar month. I just thought to myself that I've never had an issue with this tenant, and if they move out in the future, then I could re-rent it back out at the market rent and everything would be good. I'm not looking for any sympathy here whatsoever because I'm sure the tenant had their own struggles that I can't even begin to understand, but deep down I am disappointed they left the way they did and they left the property in the condition they left it in. I show you this as this is the reality where sometimes things like this happen even if you end up doing everything right. I'm sure lots of property investors have experienced these types of situations, and that's why it's always ideal to budget for the worst and plan for the best. But this is an example of exactly that. Now, in terms of what I'm planning to do to fix this, I had a few options. I contacted a local letting agent that was managing one of my other properties. I got my previous tenant to drop the keys to the property. I then asked if they could get me some quotes for the works and also the likely rental in the current market. The letting agent actually sent me a video of the property with a list of items that needed addressing. So what I did was I listed this job on My Builder. I logged on to mybuilder.com and listed the job. All I had to do was select the tradesperson I needed and then add a description of the works required. Unfortunately, I realized that I wasn't able to upload the video, but I did say I had a video of the property if anyone wanted to see it. I had 3 people inquire about my job and I organized to meet these people the day I first went to see the property. Let's call them now and see what they say in terms of how much it will cost and how long the works will take. Hi Eduardo, it's Rav. You came to see a house in Handsworth? Yeah, so it was a 3-bedroom house that needed decorating throughout 66 Hamilton Road.
Oh yeah. I remember I was give you a quotation.
Yeah, so I guess I just wanted to kind of like double check the cost for painting, decorating throughout, and then also how long the job would take.
Painting the walls white and the ceiling as well.
Yeah, correct.
And skirting doors.
Yeah.
I gave you like 2,400 including the material.
Okay.
Because first time I told you the labor will be 2,000 and you're gonna supply the materials.
Okay. How long do you think the job would take?
In my opinion, it will be like 1 week.
Okay.
You asked me something, if I remember, you're thinking to change the carpet downstairs.
That's right, yeah. I wasn't sure if the original flooring, if we might be able to polish it.
My advice on the ground floor is better laminate. It's easier to maintain, but depends, you decide.
All right, perfect.
So if you're happy, we can start with the paint, and then if you change your mind to change the floorboard, the carpet with laminate, you let me know.
Okay, all right, cool. Thanks, bye. In the end, I decided to go with the quote provided by the letting agent. They have been so helpful and I trust them to do a good job and turn it around in a reasonable amount of time. I had some concerns about the tradespeople I met that day. One kept calling me from different numbers and one actually cancelled on the day, even though he had some amazing reviews on My Builder. I will definitely keep you guys updated with the progress and show you some after photos and videos once it's complete. I've now realized that I was penny pinching when I first started out. I remember a letting agent trying to charge me £450 for an AST, and I realized I could download this free from the NRLA's website, of which I was a member at the time. I thought giving away 10% every month was not worth it. I learned a really important lesson off the back of this happening to me. I realized that if I had a letting agent in place, then they would do inspections on a regular basis, and more importantly, they would do an annual rent review. It's always easier for the letting agent or a third party to negotiate and undertake the review. It's less personal. If I negotiated directly with the tenants, I would probably have negotiated an increase of about £5 to £10 per month. The letting agent would negotiate based on the properties they have recently rented out. So literally, they have recent let out properties that they can provide to the tenant if needed to show that the market rent has moved on since they started renting the property. This is really important in the current climate where mortgage rates have increased, meaning that lenders now apply a higher interest rate when performing the stress testing. If I tried to remortgage my property, then no doubt the lender would have said that the rent is too low for me to remortgage it, or even if they were okay with the level of rent being achieved, then they would have restricted the loan to value, meaning I would have been unable to release as much money if the rent was the market rent, which was £825 per calendar month. Let me show you this. Now, I want to use a specialist buy-to-let lender as they usually have the best rates and can offer the best loan to values when compared to the high street banks. This is a lender I've used previously, so we'll check this out. Select buy-to-let. What's the application type? Select remortgage with capital raising. What's the interest coverage ratio? Buy-to-let high rate tax, 145%. What's the value of the property? £160,000. What's the property's estimated monthly rental income? £580. Hit calculate. And it shows I could borrow up to £81,494. That's 50% loan to value. Now, if I increase the rent to £825 per month, then it says I could borrow £115,918, which is 73% loan to value. This is an additional £34,424 I could borrow for the same property. I owe the bank £63,750 on this property. This is simply the 75% of the purchase price, which was £85,000. So if I was able to get a new loan as shown above, £115,918, I could release £52,168 tax-free. No tax to pay as I haven't sold anything. Now let's have a look at what would have happened if the rent was still £580 per calendar month. I would have got a loan for £81,494. This would have paid off my original mortgage of £63,750, which would have released £17,744, which is still not bad for doing nothing, but I think you would agree £52,000 is a lot nicer. It's nearly 3 times the amount and it's for the same property. I've spoken to lots of landlords and investors and they all say the same, that they manage the property themselves as it's cheaper. But it now makes me think whether or not they are doing regular inspections and whether they are doing any regular rent reviews. How you can try and make sure you never find yourself in this situation. Alright, now in terms of how you could avoid this happening to you in the first place, I think a lot of people say you can make a lot of money by investing in property, which is true, but it comes with the risk that something can happen, and that's why it's always important to always have an emergency fund in place equal to 3 to 6 months worth of your expenses. That way you're not out of pocket for any damage, lost rent or anything else that comes your way. I would always recommend taking a security deposit. I know a lot of landlords have stopped doing because it's extra administration to register the deposit and it also puts off tenants, but I genuinely think it does help filter out the types of tenants you do not want in your property. I would also recommend hiring a good lettings agent so that they can do the tenant referencing, process the security deposit and collect the rent on a monthly basis. They will do regular inspections on the property and annually they will do a rent review to make sure that you are charging the correct market rent. Every time one of my properties becomes empty I own that I used to personally manage, I now use a letting agent to manage it going forward, just because I want it managed more professionally and to ensure I'm not left picking up the pieces if something does go wrong. Not all letting agents are the same, so I will speak with at least 2 or 3 in the local area and usually ask them the market rent, the type of tenant I'm likely to attract, how long they usually stay for, and then their experience in the area and see what they say. I say all this to show you the reality that investing in property isn't always rainbows and sunshine. I think it's easy for people to get carried away talking about the positives of building wealth without addressing that situations like this do happen and that it needs to be accounted for. I've always done my best to show all the sides of the equation, whether it be on a refurbishment that goes way over budget or a property that increases significantly in a short period of time. So hopefully this gives you a better understanding of the good, bad and the ugly so that you can be better prepared for whatever might come your way. So with that said, thank you so much for watching and until next time. If you want to find out how I managed to exponentially grow my property portfolio using the property investing model I developed, then check out ravinderorjla.com.